There are so many strange unsolved mysteries from around the world that it's easy for some to be overlooked. These mysteries haven't received as much attention as others, but solving them would still make a huge difference in their fields. Number 5. Just after midnight on July 12, 1973, fire departments in St. Louis, Missouri were alerted to a fire at a records building. The fire would continue for 4 days before finally being put out. To this day, the cause of the fire remains a mystery. The National Personnel Records Center describes the 1973 fire as the greatest records disaster in the US. The fire destroyed the 6th floor of the Military Personnel Records Center, and between 16 and 18 million personnel records were destroyed. The Records Center had been built a few decades earlier. At the time, there was still debate over whether sprinkler systems should be included in the designs of such buildings. While fires are obviously damaging, water can also destroy records. It was decided that the new Records Center would be built without a sprinkler system. For the first 18 years of its existence, that didn't seem to be an issue. When personnel left work on July 11, 1973, they had no idea that would soon change. There were several activists working on the 6th floor shortly before midnight that evening. They noticed nothing out of the ordinary as they went about their job. But at 16 minutes past midnight, a fire alarm was triggered on that floor. At the same time, a passing motorcyclist stopped to tell a security guard that there was fire coming from the building. Within minutes, the fire engines were on the scene. They would be joined by 40 other fire departments as they battled for 4 days to put out the fire. For 2 of those days, firefighters couldn't even enter the building. On the morning of July 16th, firefighters confirmed the disaster was over. Nobody had been hurt, but damage had been done. The 6th floor was completely destroyed. Reinforced concrete columns had collapsed and the roof was only held up by melted and twisted filing cabinets. The contents of many had been completely reduced to ash, even those that looked relatively unharmed from the outside. In the end, it was determined that 80% of the Army records for personnel discharged between November 1st, 1912, and January 1st, 1960, had been completely destroyed. 75% of Air Force records for personnel discharged between September 25th, 1947 and January 1st, 1964, whose surnames came alphabetically after Hubert, were also destroyed. The FBI began working on investigating the cause of the fire before it had even been put out. Unfortunately, the destruction of the 6th floor made it impossible to determine the cause. The case was closed and left unsolved, and has remained that way for 50 years. The mystery has allowed conspiracy theorists to run wild. While basic information about the personnel who had their records destroyed was found in other documents, the exact details of what was in those lost files will forever be an unsolved mystery. Number 4. In January of 1857, as he prepared for his inauguration, President-elect James Buchanan fell ill with a mysterious disease. He was one of the hundreds of people to contract the illness. All seemed to have caught the disease at the National Hotel in Washington, D.C. The disease remains a medical mystery all these years later. Dozens of people lost their lives due to the sickness, and it's believed Buchanan himself came close to passing away. At the time, poisoning was a popular theory. Buchanan was a controversial president who was elected at a time of great tension in the country. He had what was described as Southern values and was a big believer in states' rights. He claimed he didn't want to get involved in the issue of slavery and pushed the issue down the road. It's not surprising that he decided to stay at the National. The hotel had gathered a reputation as being a place of luxury and sophistication, and was especially popular with Southern politicians. Many would take residence at the hotel while serving in the government. Buchanan chose to stay here while he prepared for his inauguration. Buchanan arrived on January 25th, along with 8 other guests. They dined in the banquet hall before retiring for the evening. Overnight, all the guests came down with a serious sickness that caused a great deal of pain. Over the next few days and weeks, it seemed to get worse. The president-elect was taken back home to recover, and at times it seemed like he might not make it to his inauguration. Buchanan did, and then went back to the National Hotel to celebrate with his inauguration dinner. This caused a second outbreak of the mysterious disease. On March 26th, 2 days after his inauguration, Buchanan's secretary and nephew, Elliot Lane, passed away at age 33. He was the first prominent victim, and his passing made headlines. Between 2 and 3 dozen others would succumb to the disease over the following months and years. Others were left with lifelong symptoms. There were accusations of poisoning, either deliberate or accidental. It was theorized that abolitionists had poisoned the hotel's food or water supply with arsenic. The disease did have some striking similarities with arsenic poisoning, but it wouldn't make sense to try to take out Buchanan when his vice president had even stronger anti-abolition views. An alternate theory was that rat poison had gotten into the water supply at the hotel. The National had a rat problem and had put poison down to deal with it. One of those rats was found in the hotel's water tank, but this water was only used for washing. But the rat problem was a sign of something else wrong with the hotel. It didn't have a sophisticated sewer system, even for the 1850s. It was theorized that bad air from the sewage system had caused the disease. Today, experts believe a disease like dysentery may have been the cause. It still didn't fit all the symptoms of this mysterious hotel disease, or why the illness only spiked during Buchanan's stays. The exact answer to this medical mystery may never be uncovered. Number 3. There are a surprising number of mysterious eruptions throughout the world's history. Strange weather, oral history, and ice samples indicate a devastating volcanic eruption took place at a time, but the location of the volcano remains a mystery. This is the case with the 1452 and 53 mystery eruption. In the 1990s, scientists discovered something strange in ice cores from Antarctica. In the 1450s, there'd been a spike in sulfate in the atmosphere. At the time, the world was going through a mini ice age, and this spike only made the cool temperatures even worse. Closer examination showed that there were actually 2 sulfate spikes. One was dated to 1458. The earlier spike took place between 1452 and 1453. The impact of this eruption was felt around the world. In China, there were 40 days of constant snowfall in a region at the same latitude as northern Mexico. The Yellow Sea froze up to 13 miles away from the shore, and tens of thousands of people froze. In Europe and Central America, crops failed. Dry fog was seen in Constantinople in April and May. The natural environment also had the telltale signs of the mysterious eruption. As well as the ice cores in Antarctica, ice cores in Greenland showed the same spike. Here, there was even more evidence of the eruption. The rings from trees around the world also showed stunted growth in this period. The ice cores in Greenland were particularly interesting for scientists. For a while, it was believed a volcano in the region of the South Pacific might be responsible. But these cores indicated that the mysterious volcano was actually located in the northern hemisphere, likely somewhere in the tropics. This strange mystery just goes to show how much we still have to learn about even the most recent history of our world, and there are likely many more similar mysteries just waiting to be uncovered. Number 2. There is no shortage of mysterious, unexplained noises heard around the world. From simple hums to sonar noises to loud booms, the possible explanations are just as mysterious. In 2012, a mystery boom heard in Jodhpur, India, caused panic, and it's not been solved. Jodhpur lies close to India's border with Pakistan, and there's a military airbase located nearby. More than 1,138,000 people were living in this city's walls in 2012. The mystery occurred at 11:25 a.m. on December 18, 2012. The people of Jodhpur were going about their day. A few may have been thinking about the end of the world prediction that suggested the apocalypse was only a few days away, but for most, it wouldn't have crossed their minds. Suddenly, a deafening noise came from the sky above. It shook window panes and broke glass. Some people became unsteady on their feet. Things fell from shop stalls. The noise was over almost as suddenly as it started. People looked to one another for answers, but there were none. The noise sounded like a sonic boom, which is caused when an object is moving faster than the speed of sound. Today, those are normally caused by military aircraft. Commercial aircraft don't fly as fast today. After confirming the Mayan prediction about the end of the world hadn't come 3 days early, it was suspected that the military had been the cause of the noise. It was suspected that either weapons malfunctions or a faster-than-sound aircraft was responsible. The military quickly denied this. A spokesperson came forward to say that there'd been no malfunction and no aircraft in the vicinity of Jodhpur. He emphasized that it would be impossible for this to be the case, as there were rules against flying at such speeds in populated areas. No other explanation has ever been found. There were no earthquakes that may have triggered the noise. It's been suggested that a meteorite may have caused the noise, but no records of a meteorite strike have been found. Jodhpur wasn't the only city to experience a suspected sonic boom in 2012, though. Other countries, including the US and UK, also reported similar noises earlier in the year. On one occasion, a green light was also seen. Little information about these noises has been made public, leaving the public wondering what caused this strange mystery. Number 1. In March of 1945, the USS Willard Keith was traveling back to San Francisco from Catalina Island when its sonar picked up the sound of submarine turbines. It reacted quickly, dropping depth charges. Whatever it hit left behind an oil slick. What exactly it hit remains a mystery. The USS Willard Keith was a 376-foot-long destroyer-class ship. It had only been commissioned a few weeks earlier and was serving as a training trip for engineering personnel at the time. It would travel between San Francisco and the islands in the San Pedro Channel. It was on March 21st, on one of these return journeys, that operators noticed something strange on the sonar. Not far off the coast of California, there were distinct signs of a submarine operating beneath the water. The ship's skipper had already been sunk twice during the war, and he wasn't going to let this happen again. The ship turned around to travel back over the submarine and sent out several depth charges. Sailors on deck spotted an oil slick that appeared on the surface of the water. Something beneath the waves had sunk. When the ship traveled over that location again, there was no sign of any submarine. The US was operating submarines in the Pacific at the time, but those close to the shore were not supposed to be underwater. The senior sailors insisted the submarines had to have been an enemy vessel, but when the Willard Keith arrived back to shore, the crew was ordered not to say anything about the sunken submarine. The excuse was that it would cause people to panic if they knew the enemy was operating so close to shore. The sailors kept quiet about the hit and finished their service. One sailor, Bill Anderson, had almost completely forgotten about the sunken submarine until the 1990s. Bill had been 18 years old in 1945. He was an enlisted sailor who remembered asking how they knew they hadn't committed friendly fire. In the 1990s, he learned of an unidentified sunken submarine near Half Moon Bay. There were stories of divers being denied access to the site. One requested permission to scavenge mercury from the submarine. This seemed to confirm that the sunken submarine wasn't American. American subs didn't carry mercury, but during the Second World War, German subs did. Bill requested the logbook of the USS Willard Keith, only to discover that there was no mention of any submarine sinking. Despite the official denial, many sailors who had been aboard the ship on March 21, 1945, remembered the mysterious event. Bill spent his retirement searching for the mysterious submarine. There are many shipwrecks in that area, and finding the right one proved impossible. Sadly, he passed away without ever getting to the bottom of the mystery. Today, we still don't know whether this mystery sub was an enemy vessel or the victim of friendly fire. If the submarine was carrying mercury, it may have been some experimental craft that the US government was still trying to keep a secret in 1945. It's also possible that the submarine the mercury scavenger had found was not the same ship the USS Willard Keith sank. A third possibility is that the USS Willard Keith encountered something even more mysterious that day. The truth may never be uncovered. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you liked this video, be sure to hit that like button. Also, don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell to keep up to date with all of our future uploads. But my name is Ty Knotts, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.